This animal is back after 13,000 years. The de-extinction of dire wolf. Imagine standing face to face with a creature that hasn't walked the earth for 13,000 years. A predator stronger than any modern wolf, resurrected through cutting-edge science. This isn't a sci-fi movie. It's happening right now. A biotech company claims they brought back the legendary dire wolf. But is it really what they say it is? Or are we witnessing something even more unsettling? In this video, we'll dive deep into the breakthrough, the controversy, and the chilling questions nobody is asking. Stay with us, because by the end, you might wonder if some things are better left extinct. An animal that went extinct 13,000 years ago, the dire wolf has now supposedly returned to life through genetic engineering, or so claims the company Colossal Biosciences. This company also says that, in the future, it plans to revive many other famous extinct species: the Tasmanian tiger, once found in Australia, the dodo bird, which disappeared from Mauritius in the 1600s, and the woolly mammoth, a massive relative of the elephant that once roamed snowy regions but vanished 4,000 years ago. According to Colossal Biosciences, the dire wolf marks their first successful attempt at de-extinction. The dire wolf, a species made even more popular by the TV series Game of Thrones, was portrayed as the loyal companion of several main characters. Inspired by the show, the two dire wolf pups created by the company have been named Romulus and Remus. This project was carried out at a secret location in the United States. In this picture, you can see Romulus and Remus, now 5 months old, relaxing under the sun in a barn. These pups have no idea how unique they truly are, born into a world where no other member of their species exists. Alongside them is a third dire wolf, a female named Khaleesi. At first glance, the story sounds incredible, but many experts have raised serious doubts about the company's claims. They argue that these aren't true dire wolves, but genetically engineered versions of ordinary wolves. So how exactly was this done? Let's take a closer look. The story of the dire wolf begins in 1854 near the Ohio River in the United States, when its fossils were first discovered. In 1858, American scientist Joseph Leidy classified the animal under the Canis genus, giving it the scientific name Canis dirus, literally fearsome dog. The Canis genus includes modern dogs, wolves, and even jackals. In 1918, another scientist, John Merriam, studied dire wolf fossils at the famous La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles. Merriam proposed that the dire wolf was different enough to warrant its own separate genus. However, his view was dismissed at the time, and for the next century, scientists believed dire wolves were close relatives of modern gray wolves. But that understanding changed dramatically in 2021, when a study published in Nature revealed that dire wolves had branched off from other wolves about 5.7 million years ago. They shared the landscape of North America with gray wolves and coyotes, but unlike those species, dire wolves did not interbreed with others. Their genetic lineage remained isolated, and around 13,000 years ago, dire wolves vanished forever. Gray wolves, however, survived. Why did dire wolves go extinct? The exact reasons are unknown, but one theory suggests that because they preyed on larger animals, many of which also went extinct, the dire wolves lost their food sources and eventually died out themselves. Another theory suggests that their inability to interbreed with other species limited their adaptability to a changing environment. In terms of size, dire wolves were about 25% larger than modern wolves. Although Game of Thrones portrayed them as massive creatures the size of lions, in reality, they weren't quite that big. However, they did have larger heads, more powerful jaws, and light-colored fur that was almost white. Like modern wolves, they lived and hunted in packs. Now, coming back to de-extinction, how did Colossal Biosciences attempt to bring the dire wolf back? De-extinction, the process of resurrecting extinct species, can be attempted through three main methods: backbreeding, cloning, and genetic engineering. The first method, backbreeding, involves selectively breeding living relatives of extinct species to recreate lost traits. A famous example is the quagga project. The quagga, a zebra-like animal with stripes only on the front part of its body, was hunted to extinction in South Africa in 1883. Scientists in 1987 began selectively breeding zebras that had fewer stripes. Over generations, they produced zebras that closely resembled the extinct quagga. However, although these animals look similar, they are genetically still zebras, not true quaggas. This highlights the major limitation of backbreeding. You may recreate the appearance, but not the full genetic identity of an extinct species. The second method is cloning. This involves creating an exact genetic copy by inserting the nucleus from a preserved cell into the egg of a closely related species. Cloning made headlines in 1996 with the birth of Dolly the sheep. For de-extinction, cloning was attempted with the bucardo, a type of Spanish mountain goat that went extinct in 2000. Scientists used preserved cells from the last living bucardo to attempt cloning. Out of 57 eggs, only one goat was born, and sadly it died within minutes due to lung defects. Thus, the bucardo became the first animal in history to go extinct twice. The third and most promising method is genetic engineering. This method uses ancient DNA extracted from fossils. Scientists study this DNA, identify key genes, and then edit the DNA of a closely related living species to replicate the traits of the extinct species. However, there are two major challenges here. First, ancient DNA is often damaged or incomplete. Second, editing millions of genetic sequences accurately is incredibly complex. In 2021, billionaire Ben Lamb and renowned geneticist George Church co-founded Colossal Biosciences with the bold goal of resurrecting extinct species, starting with the woolly mammoth. They also have plans to revive the Tasmanian tiger and the dodo bird. Each species presents unique challenges. For instance, Asian elephants, the closest living relatives of mammoths, have a pregnancy period of nearly 2 years. The Tasmanian tiger was a marsupial, so scientists would need to create an artificial pouch. And manipulating bird embryos, like those of the dodo, is notoriously difficult because of the way bird eggs develop. In 2023, Colossal Biosciences held a meeting to select the best candidate for a trial run. They ultimately chose the dire wolf, mainly because of its fame in pop culture. It would bring more publicity than using goats or rats. By summer 2023, they began work. Their first task was to locate high-quality DNA. They found 2 promising fossils, a 13,000-year-old tooth from Sheridan Cave in Ohio and a 70,000-year-old skull from Idaho. Gene sequencing of these fossils provided 500 times more data than previously available. However, even now, they haven't been able to reconstruct the complete genome of the dire wolf, only partial DNA sequences. The company hasn't publicly disclosed how much DNA they successfully retrieved. Next, they compared dire wolf DNA with gray wolf DNA, which is 99.5% similar. They identified 14 specific genes linked to key external traits like body size, head shape, fur color, and texture. Using CRISPR-Cas9, a revolutionary gene editing technology, which earned scientists Emmanuelle Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna the 2020 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, they edited 20 key sites within these 14 genes. Thousands of genetically modified cells were then grown in the lab. By mid-2024, the nuclei from these edited cells were extracted and inserted into egg cells from domestic dogs whose nuclei had been removed. Out of 45 embryos implanted into 2 surrogate dogs, only 2 pregnancies were successful. And from these 2, the first engineered dire wolf pups, Romulus and Remus, were born. 45 embryos were planted in 2 dogs. Only 2 of these embryos developed. Then on October 21, 2024, the first 2 cubs were born. The company named them Romulus and Remus. A few weeks later, a 3rd female cub was born. She was named Khaleesi. Thus, the world's first de-extinct dire wolves, as claimed by the company, were born. At first glance, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi look just like how scientists imagine dire wolves. Larger heads, stockier bodies, strong jaws, light-colored thick fur, and they grew at an extremely rapid pace, much faster than regular gray wolves. But here's the controversy. Several scientists argue that these aren't real dire wolves, because the process that was used here, altering 14 genes, focuses mostly on external traits, not on the entire genome of the direwolf. You see, the DNA extracted from fossils is often fragmented. Even after sequencing, only a partial genetic map can be reconstructed. Thus, while the cubs might look like direwolves, their internal organs, metabolism, immune system, could still be mostly that of a modern wolf. This is a major philosophical and scientific debate. If an animal looks like an extinct animal, but internally is not identical, can we really say we've resurrected it? To draw an analogy, imagine you build a car that looks exactly like a 1960s Ford Mustang, but inside it's powered by an electric motor and modern AI technology. Is it still the same car as the classic Mustang? Most people would say no. Similarly, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi might be genetically engineered modern wolves, not true dire wolves from 13,000 years ago. Another concern scientists raise is about ethics. Are we playing with nature too much? Will these new dire wolves suffer from unexpected health problems because of genetic changes? What happens if they are released into the wild someday? Could they disrupt existing ecosystems? The company claims they are well aware of these concerns. Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi are kept under careful observation in a highly secure, undisclosed location. They are not intended to be released into the wild. They are being studied for their behavior, biology, and health outcomes. As of early 2025, Colossal Biosciences has announced that they plan to continue refining their techniques. Their goal is to produce dire wolves that are even closer to the original species, genetically and behaviorally. At the same time, their work on de-extincting the woolly mammoth, Tasmanian tiger, and dodo bird continues. If they succeed, it will truly be a new era of biotechnology, an era where extinction is no longer a permanent fate. But whether this is a scientific miracle or human arrogance, only time will tell. So, are we on the brink of a new age of biotechnology where extinct species return from the past? Or are we treading on dangerous ground, playing God with nature? Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi are undeniably fascinating examples of what modern science can achieve. But the question remains, can we truly resurrect a species, or are we just creating something entirely new? As Colossal Biosciences continues its research into these genetically engineered animals, the world watches closely, wondering whether we've unlocked a scientific miracle or opened a Pandora's box. What do you think? Should we keep pushing the boundaries of genetic engineering, or have we gone too far? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of de-extinction, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on all things science and technology. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.